Guys, it's the Magic Mirror. Thank you once again for tuning in. Today I wanted to break down the process of healing and really go over one of the first steps of healing, which is connecting to your inner child. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right into it. So during the first 7 years of our life, we are actually in the theta stage of our brain. Theta meaning hypnosis. So when we come into this world, we actually come with a blank slate. So there are absolutely no habits, there are no identities, no personalities, absolutely no programs. So I like to think of it as like a computer. So when you first get a computer, there aren't any programs onto it until it is downloaded. That is actually what is happening in our brain during the first 7 years of our life, is that we are really downloading our habits. We are creating our identities. We are forming patterns and personalities. And it's all from our environment. So whoever that we were raised with, the kids that we went to school with, and the teachers that we had are programming our minds. And the programming actually starts within the 3rd trimester of pregnancy. So whatever your mom was going through at that time, it is actually being downloaded into you. So this is a very, very delicate, vulnerable time of development for the human. So if you went through any kind of trauma, if you grew up in a toxic environment, if you grew up in an environment where your emotional needs were neglected, let's say that you had to suppress your emotions because you weren't allowed to feel them. You weren't allowed to cry. Let's say you weren't just allowed to be yourself. It actually creates a program that makes you believe that your emotions are not important, that your needs are not important. So later on, you can find yourself in a relationship in which you feel like your needs are important, so you're not going to express them. You're not going to express your emotions. You're going to bottle everything up, and you're not going to be able to be yourself. So this period is very, very, very important for the development of the brain. During this time, we are formulating all of the habits that are literally going to be running for the rest of our lives. So we are forming our habits, programming into the subconscious mind during this time. Our subconscious mind does not exist during this time. So if you were in an unstable environment that wasn't supportive of you, you are going to feel like your needs are not important, and you're going to carry that belief with you for the rest of your life, which is going to manifest into your relationships with friends and with partners. So this is what actually creates people pleasers. This is actually how our consciousness becomes split, because we're not allowed to be ourselves. So we have to formulate new identities to please other people. And I've seen this with so many of my friends. I've actually seen this within myself, where I didn't have a sense of self because I wasn't accepted for who I was. And as a result, I would change, and like a chameleon, I would literally become whoever person I was around just to fit in. And later on in life, I had a hard time figuring out who I truly was because of how often I would change myself to please other people. And I am currently helping a lot of my close friends who actually struggle with this as well. I was able to heal this, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of patience to get to know who you truly are. Inner child healing is the foundation of your healing journey, because you need to connect to that wounded part of you, because that is where you're going to discover all the roots of your behaviors, the roots of your patterns, the roots of why you are the way that you are. And that's how you start developing your sense of self-awareness, is by understanding your inner child. So to begin actually connecting with your inner child, some of the questions that you can ask yourself are, what was my childhood like? Are there periods of my childhood in which I don't remember? And if that happens to be the case, that is actually a result of a blackout period, which is a coping mechanism of the brain. You went through something so traumatic, so painful, that you were unable to comprehend it. So your brain creates a blackout, it's blocked out from your memory. And those are the periods that you really want to go dig into and figure out what happened. You want to be able to heal whatever you went through, whatever trauma you went through, and you want to figure out what coping mechanisms were developed during this time. So you may be asking, okay, like, how do I remember what happened during my childhood? How do I remember what happened during my blackout period? You set the intention to remember. You can do this through meditation. So sit with yourself, close your eyes, and say out loud or say it in your mind, I want to remember what happened during the ages of 4 through 7. And then these memories will start surfacing. It may happen in your meditation. It may start surfacing in dreams. It may manifest into meeting one of your old childhood friends that trigger the memories. Maybe someone will bring it up in a conversation and then suddenly you have an aha moment and you're like, oh yeah, this happened. So it's really important to set the intention for that, which actually leads into my next step, which is healing. So when all these memories start unfolding, it's so difficult. This is where surrendering comes in hand, because you're literally releasing these repressed emotions. You're realizing how your patterns and these bad habits were formed because of the trauma you went through. It's so hard. And this is going to happen. It takes a long time. So when it starts to get unbearable, literally let it break you down on your knees onto the floor. Let it consume you. Let it all out. Like, you need to let it all out. Okay, it's so important to release these energetic imprints and let yourself cry it all out until it surfaces. Get it all out, and then you'll gain a deeper understanding of why you are the way that you are. And then you can place your hand on your heart and you can breathe. And then you can say, okay, I understand. I understand why I created that coping mechanism. I understand why I created that limiting belief that I'm a fuck up. I understand why I think that the world is a bad place. I understand why I feel like I'm cursed and that bad things are always going to continue to happen. I understand why I believe I don't deserve to be happy. And you slowly start gaining a deeper understanding and building compassion for yourself. And once you start understanding like your habits and like the roots of why they were formed, this is actually how you can start reprogramming them. But before I get into the reprogramming process, I really want to go more into the healing part because this is where a lot of people get stuck. They don't actually make it to the next step because it's so hard to deal with. It's so hard to go back in time and face what you went through. And most of us weren't allowed to express ourselves emotionally. We're taught by society where our parents don't let us express ourselves because they were programmed to not express themselves. So it's not our parents' fault. It's generations upon generations of programming. But you have to understand that you do need to make peace with what has happened in the past, and you need to find an understanding of what happened and why these patterns were created to begin with. So let everything come to the surface. Write about it. Make voice memos about it. Talk about it with a friend. I know that when I first started this journey, I didn't really have anybody to talk to, so I just talked to myself. I talked to myself out loud. I would make voice memos. I would write about it, everything that I was experiencing. And then the deeper I was into my healing, I started manifesting my soul family, and I'm able to talk to them about it. But I understand if you feel alone, and it's okay because you have yourself. You have you, and you've been there throughout your entire life. So some days you're gonna feel like you don't wanna get out of bed because of everything that's surfacing. And give yourself permission to take off work. You don't have to go to that family event. You don't have to hang out with your friends. Like, you'll find yourself wanting to isolate yourself from society for a little bit, and guess what? It's okay. Do it. I isolated myself from society for 6 months. I didn't work for 6 months because of how dedicated I was to my healing. And I needed that time. You don't have to be afraid of your darkness. You don't have to be afraid of your demons. Take your demons by the hand and be like, come on, come with me. Let's go into the light. In order to discover your light, you have to understand and walk through the fiery pits of the underworld. You have to go through hell. You have to plant your roots in hell and let it sprout into the sunlight. Just like a plant, it gets grounded into the soil. It doesn't see an inch of light until it's firmly grounded and rooted, and then it's able to see the sunshine. So don't be afraid of being in this dark period, because you will be able to come into the light again. The next step is integration. So you want to start integrating the different identities that were created due to the trauma. So this begins by really understanding the different identities that were created based off of each environment that you were in. Maybe it was from group to group. Maybe it's from different family members that you're allowed to be yourself from. Maybe it's how you act at work. So we all have different masks. But what happens is if you have so many, you actually start to lose touch with yourself. And many of us don't even know who we truly are because we feel like we can't be ourselves in this world, in this society. There's so many pressures. So it's important, like, write down on a piece of paper each identity that you've created and figure out what's really you. The next step is acceptance. You have to make peace with your past. You have to make peace with who you are. You have to make peace with the habits that were formed based off of what you went through in your life. Have compassion with yourself. It's to be gentle with yourself. Think about it. Your inner child still exists within you. Talk to yourself the same way that you would talk to a child. Don't be judgmental of yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Be understanding. You went through so much in your life. So much. And you're taking the steps towards healing, and that's so beautiful. Forgive yourself for the way that you are. Forgive yourself for the choices that you have made. And talk to your inner child. Every time those limiting thoughts surface, acknowledge them. Place your hand on your heart and speak to your inner child and say, I understand why you're feeling this way. You feel this way because this happened. But we're in a new reality now. This isn't our truth. Don't accept your limiting beliefs as your truth. Let them go. During this process, it's so important to connect to yourself. So many of us are disconnected from ourselves. We don't even feel like we're in our body. We're literally just stuck in this autopilot mode. That you have to literally formulate a connection to your body, mind, body, soul connection. When you wake up in the morning, start wiggling your toes. Start feeling your body. Start feeling like you're alive within it. Start stretching in the morning. Yoga is an excellent way to start your day. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, just dedicate 5 minutes to connecting to the vessel that you're in. Start your day by conscious breathing. Place your hand on your heart and breathe. Take a deep breath in. Hold it. And slowly release it. You are okay. You are loved. Tell yourself that. Start setting your intentions for the day of what you would like to work on. Once you've really were able to form a connection with yourself and you've gained an understanding of why your habits were formed, why the patterns were formed, you can begin reprogramming them. So what I recommend is to write down a list of all the habits, all the limiting beliefs that you would like to change, and then draw an arrow next to that belief or that pattern of what you want to reprogram it with. So one of my limiting beliefs was, I don't deserve to be happy. I'm going to be miserable for the rest of my life. And I reprogrammed that with, I deserve to be happy. I deserve all the happiness in the world. And you can keep the sheet and like refer to it every day, like carry it with you, keep it in your phone, refer back to it. And then one by one, start working on each pattern and each limiting belief. It takes time. This process does not happen overnight. Literally work on one thing at a time. Start your Sunday, the beginning of the week, with what you want to work on that week. So maybe you want to work on the way that you talk about yourself. You want to work on your positivity and not being such a negative person. Write that down. Create a game plan on how you can implement that into your week. And then make that your focus for every single day. Continue working on that until you've downloaded it as a program, until that's your new way of being. And then you can move to the next step. And this is what we do for each and every program that needs to be released and reprogrammed. The most important step to me, which is what I am working on right now, is remaining in the present moment. Remaining in the present moment means that you are not running from the subconscious mind. You are running from the conscious mind. So if you are so conscious that you want to be this healed person, you want to be a completely different person than you were in the past, and you're conscious of that, you can consciously make the right choices that align with your new beliefs about yourself, that align with the new intentions that you want to implement into your life. So work on being present by being aware of your body. That brings you back into the present moment. Touch something in this realm. So I like to connect to trees. I like to feel the bark on a tree. Just feeling the texture in your hands reminds you that you're alive and you're here in this moment. Walk barefoot in the grass. Feel the dirt underneath your feet. Feel the coldness of the soil, the leaves crunching underneath of you. Conscious breathing, returning back to the breath. Spend very little time on your phone. Dedicate maybe an hour a day. Because when we're lost in our phones, we're stuck in autopilot. We're like completely unaware of ourselves. We're literally in a virtual reality. We're like leaving our souls here in this realm and we're going into a different realm. All right, guys, so these are some of the steps to healing. I am literally going to make a video on each thing that I've talked about because this healing process is so deep. There's so many different layers to it that I can't even make just one video about it. Like, this is literally going to be an entire series, but I just wanted to make an introduction video. So this is how we start. This is how we heal. This is what we're going to start implementing into our lives. This is how we're going to heal mental disease. So please stay tuned. Please comment and share your experience with what you're going through. I would love to hear it. And if you guys want to take this one step further, I do offer healing services where we can work together and I can guide you through the process. All this information will be in the description. So please subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love all of you guys. I support all of your healing. You guys are all in my heart. I love you all.